Awesome. So welcome everyone to the workshop, getting started with n8n. Uh, with this workshop, you're gonna gain some technical superpowers with n8n. And we are excited to be a part of the hackathon. And we are looking forward to see what you build with n8n. In this workshop, as I mentioned, we are gonna look into a lot of things. We are gonna learn about what is automation and understand its benefits. We will explore n8n and learn how we can build our workflows. We will look into the key components of n8n and we will build two workflows. The first workflow is really interesting. We will build a workflow that will help us calculate the amount of time we spent in our online classes, and it will send an SMS. And the second workflow will make our factories smarter. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Harshil Agrawal, and as you can see in this picture, I like to smile and spread happiness. I work as a developer advocate intern at n8n, where I get to prototype some useful workflows, work with the documentation, write blog posts, and talk to the community. You also might have seen me at various hackathons as an MLH coach. Well, enough of the introduction. Let's learn new things. So when you hear the word automation, what do you think? What is automation for you? Let me know in the chat. What do you think? What is automation? Well, while you are typing that in the chat, while you are typing that in the chat, let me tell you what is automation. So according to Wikipedia, automation is the technology by which a process or a procedure is performed with minimal human assistance. And I see Anubhav sharing his answer to build something to make your life easier. Exactly, right? And that is what automation is. Priyanshu says making computers do stuff humans had to do, right? Exactly. So you all have the idea of what is automation. But let's try to understand automation in a bit more detail with some examples. Well, when I was a kid, I loved watching Rich Rich. I still do. But yeah, this was the first time I got introduced to automation. This was really fascinating to me. To get ready, all Rich Rich had to do was just press a button, and the robots would do the work for him. Now this is a fictional example, right? Let's talk about some real world example. So when your friends send you an email invite for an event, it gets automatically added to your calendar. And you don't have to do any manual work for that. If you use Google Calendar like me, you might have received reminders for your events just 10 minutes before the event starts. So now we don't have to worry about missing those events as well, right? And these are some small day-to-day examples. But how is automation used in the industry? I would like to know from you all. So let me know in the chat, where do you see automation? Where can the industry benefit from automation? Social media management. Yes, Tanay, that's a really good example. So we are actually using automation at SillyHacks to do this. And yeah, that is really helpful. Self-driving cars. Yes, that has taken automation to a whole new level, right? You don't have to drive your own car and it automatically takes you to your destination. And that's really fascinating. Priyanshu says testing software. Yes, that was my example and you stole it. No problem. So yeah, let's talk about how we can extend this testing example. So yeah, you can set up a CI/CD pipeline, that is continuous integration and continuous development pipeline, right? And you write the test for your application and you push it to GitHub. And if the test fails, we get an alert, right? So this prevents us from shipping any bugs to production and provide a better application for our user. I see Anubhav answering maintain reports and spreadsheets. Yes, that is also a really useful use case of automation, and that is really helpful. Now that we understood what automation is, let's look into how automation benefits us. The very first advantage is the lower operational cost. These automated systems can work more efficiently and with less human interaction. And when we have less human interaction, we have less chances to get any error. The cost to operate them is also very low. And you have to pay only for the servers and the tools or services that you use. And there is no other cost involved. The next advantage is improved productivity. Automation has truly improved our productivity. And we don't have to spend our time in manual work, which can be automated. Again, taking our example of testing, right? We don't have to continuously monitor it manually, right? We can save that time, and we can use this time for some other productive work. The next advantage is improved quality. The quality of the product improves since there is less human error. For example, taking again the example of automated testing, automated testing can help you catch the errors quickly, and this helps us ship a better product, which is error-free. Now we know what is automation and its benefits. But we still don't know how to get started with automation, right? So let me introduce you to n8n. n8n is a free code license tool that helps you to automate tasks, sync data between various sources, and react to events, all via a visual workflow editor. n8n is a no-code platform, which means you can build your automation workflows without writing a single line of code. So let me give you a quick look of how the editor looks like. So this is what the n8n editor looks like. So by default, we have the start screen, the start node, and all the workflow starts from this start node, and the start node cannot be deleted. And at SillyHacks, we are using n8n to automate our tasks. So let me show you some examples of it. So this is the workflow we are using to send emails to you all. Now sending emails to thousands of you would be crazy if I do it manually. So this automation does it in no time. So whenever I click on the execute button, well, don't worry, I don't want to spam your inbox now, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, whenever I click on the execute button, the workflow gets started. What it does, it fetches all the data from Airtable, where we are storing the information. It passes on this information to Mailgun, which then sends you all the email. Now there were a few issues with Mailgun. So if we are using Mailgun, we found out that the Mailgun was not able to send emails to the .edu domains. So we needed another workflow to manage this. And for that, I built another workflow which sends emails using another service. So let me talk a bit about this workflow. So Mailgun has, whenever an email is not sent through Mailgun and it is failed, Mailgun sends a webhook request. This webhook request is captured in the webhook node, right? The webhook node then sends the information in the set node, where we are setting the variables and the information that we want. And then we are moving on this information to the send email node. Now this send email node is using the SMTP services. So it makes sure that the email is sent to you all. I am also storing the information of the emails that were not sent to you through Airtable. So this helps me to keep a track and make sure that everyone is receiving the information that they need. So yeah, this is how n8n is making it easy for us at SillyHacks to automate our work. Now let me talk a bit more about the benefits of n8n and how it makes it easy to build the workflows. So the first is self-hosting. You can host your own n8n instance on the cloud. You can run it locally on your machine, or you can even run it on Raspberry Pi. Now, when you are self-hosting n8n instances, you are the owner of your own data, right? And you can give the access to whatever data you want to anyone you want, right? You are the rightful owner of the data, and no one can snoop your data. The other benefit is the workflow editor makes it really easy to build the automations. Select and configure what nodes you want to connect with each other. Simply connect them with each other and your workflow is ready. So let's head back again to our editor. Now, before moving forward and building the workflows, I want to explain you the components of n8n. The first component we are going to talk about is nodes. So nodes are the building blocks of the workflow. And currently there are 180 plus nodes that you can use for your automation. What you see here are the nodes. Each of this is an individual node. And I have connected these nodes to let the data flow from one node to another. So whenever the data is received in the webhook node, it then gets forwarded to the set node and then to the Airtable node, and via the set node, it again gets forwarded to send email node. So that now again, there are two different types of nodes. The first is the trigger node. So if you see over here, we have a lot of multiple trigger nodes. So these nodes start the automation and they supply the required data. Let's just say your teammate created a new pull request on GitHub. So you can use the GitHub trigger node, which is present over here, that will listen to this event, and you can then start your automation. The next is the regular node. These nodes do the actual work. They can move, add, remove, and edit data in the workflow, as well as they can request and send data to external APIs. So taking our earlier example of the GitHub node, of the GitHub trigger node, we can now connect it with a Twitter node, and we can send tweets about the new pull requests that have been created for our project. So let's take a small quiz over here. I am going to show you some workflows and tell me which one of this is a trigger node and which of this is a regular node. So yeah, this is the first workflow. What do you think? Do we have a trigger node in this or not? And it's completely fine if you are not confident with your answer. We are all here to learn. So Shivam says start triggers the workflow. Well, it's kind of true and not true, because start is the default node, right? And all the workflows start from the start node. So yeah, let's take another example. Okay, I'm not gonna ask which is the trigger node, but tell me which is the regular node. Yes, send email, set, webhook, table, send email. Okay, pretty good, pretty good. So most of you are understanding what are trigger nodes and what are not. But let me correct and explain you once again. So webhook node over here is a trigger node. The set node, the add table node, and the send email node are the regular nodes. Webhook is a trigger node over here because whenever a function is fired, the webhook node will check for the request, right? And once it catches the request, it will start the workflow. So webhook will start. So webhook over here is starting the workflow. So webhook is the trigger node. No problem. So yeah, this is pretty simple. Can someone tell me which is a regular node over here? Awesome. Yes, medium is the regular node. And this is a workflow which you can use if you write articles on Medium, right? So all you have to do is create a workflow with the Medium node, set your credentials, just like I have done over here, put in the publication ID if you're submitting to a publication. If you're not, you can switch this off. You can enter the title over here. You can select the content format and you can add the content over here. So this can also help you in, cross posting your articles to different platforms. So one last example before we move forward. So yeah, tell me which is the trigger node and give me any one, like which of the following is our regular node. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I see you all are becoming an expert. You all know now which is a regular node and which is a trigger node. Pretty sweet. Well, now let's talk about another key component of n8n, and that is workflow. So workflow is a canvas on which you can place and connect the nodes. A workflow can be started manually or by a trigger node. And a workflow ends when all the active and connected nodes have processed the data. Now that we have understood the components of n8n, let's see how to get started and learn about some important nodes that might come handy. Now I have already shared with you all the prerequisites. So you can find the prerequisites over on my GitHub repo. I will also share it with you on the chat. So I want you all to go through the prerequisites, and I assume that you all might have installed n8n before the workshop started. Now to start n8n, we can run it locally on our machine, and we can run it on Docker. For this workshop, we will use n8n with npm. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Yuvraj, for notifying me that I wasn't aware of that. So I sent the link to only panelists. Let me share it with you all. Awesome. So yeah, I am on my terminal and I hope this is now visible. So you can install n8n globally on your machine. And the command for that is npm install n8n-g. So this basically installs n8n globally on your machine. So if you haven't installed n8n, go ahead and install it. But before that, make sure that you have Node.js installed. I am not going to run this step because I already have n8n installed on my machine. But I highly encourage you all to go ahead and install it. Now, once you install n8n, you can spin it up using the command n8n or n8n start. But before doing that, let me quickly close this instance so that I can show you how it is done. Now, to be able to use the webhooks for trigger nodes of external services like GitHub, n8n has to be reachable from the web. And to make that easy, n8n has a special tunnel service which redirects requests from our servers to your local n8n instance. And to use that, we use the command n8n start with the flag tunnel. So this makes it, this connects your local environment to the n8n cloud, which makes your webhooks accessible to other services. So we are going to use this command since we will be using the webhook node. So this will start the n8n instance, and once it gets started, you can go ahead to the link localhost 5678 or simply press O in your terminal. I already have it running on my machine. So yep, you can see n8n is on my machine over here. Now I am going to teach you a few nodes which might really come handy to you throughout throughout this hackathon, right? And the first thing before that I want to show you is how to add nodes to your workflow. So you can click on the plus button and then you can select any node that you want. You can also search the nodes over here, and you can look out for the different categories of the node that you want. Now the first node that I want to talk to you all about is the HTTP request node. So let me go ahead and add that node. Now if you see the HTTP request node, it has different parameters over here, and I'm going to walk you through that. So let me tell you what HTTP request node does. So basically the HTTP request node allows you to make HTTP requests to any API or website, and you can select any HTTP request method you want. You can send a GET request, a POST request, a DELETE request, basically any kind of HTTP request, right? And now if your if the API that you are using is using any kind of authentication, you can select the authentication method as well. So let us take an example. Let us say our API is using the OAuth 2 authentication method. So I'll select the OAuth 2 authentication method. Then you go ahead and click on create new, and here it is. So what you want to do is fill out these details. You can find these details from your API portal, right? Once you do that, you want to go ahead and click on create, and this will save your credentials, and you can use it, and then you can use these credentials in any other HTTP request node that you want. Now for this workshop, I am going to use an API which does not require any kind of credentials. But yeah, if you are using any kind of API that uses credential, make sure to set up the correct credentials. So for the demo, we are going to use the CocktailDB API. Now the CocktailDB API gives us a random information about a cocktail, right? It gives us the image of the cocktail, the name of the cocktail, the ingredients, as well as the instructions. So let's go ahead and add this to our node over here. So I already have the API with me. So I have pasted the link in the URL parameter over here, right? The method over here is the get method. So, and now I'm going to make a request. And you see, we have got all the information. So the API gave us a random cocktail and all the information for it. Now let's take this a step further. Let's send this information to our Discord channel. And to do that, I'll add the Discord node, and I already have the Discord webhook with me. So I'm going to quickly paste that. And now we want to pass on the information from the previous node. So to do that, we click on the gear icon over here, click on add expressions, and in the expressions, we just don't want to send the information, right? We also want to send it in a nice formatted way. So let me quickly paste the formatted message that I have prepared. And now just beside the name, I'll get the name from the output data from the HTTP request node. So the name should be over here. Let's also, share the instructions with our friends. So let me get the instructions as well. And well, we also want to see how it looks, right? So let's share the image as well. Awesome. So we have now all the information that we needed. Now let me click on execute node, and this should send a message to the n8n Discord channel. So go ahead and check out on the channel, and you will see the message over there. Okay, so now that you know how you can create, how you can use the HTTP request node as well as the Discord node, the next thing I would show you is how to save this. So you can go and click on the Save As button over here, give your workflow a name. We'll call it Silly Discord Bot. And then we save this. So the advantage of saving the workflows is you can, refer to them anytime you want, and you can also share this with your community. Awesome. So yeah, this was the HTTP request node. The next node that I want to show you all is the webhook node. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the webhook node is a trigger node. So whenever a webhook call is made, a workflow will start the execution. So let us go ahead and build a new workflow. So we will add, as usual, we will add the webhook node, but make sure that you are on the trigger section since webhook node is a trigger node. Now, an important thing to note over here is since we are using since this is testing right now and we are not using in production, we want to use the test URL over here. But when you are using in production, use the production URL. And whenever you are working with a production webhook, please ensure that you have shared and activated the workflow. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And yeah, don't forget that the data flowing through the webhook won't be visible in the editor UI when the webhook node is in production. So I'm copying this webhook URL and I'm going to make a request to this URL. So let me just go ahead and quickly make the request. Let me run this. Well, I got a 404. That should not have happened. So anyone, any idea what is happening over here? Well, no problem. Let me tell you. So the first thing we didn't do was we didn't click on the execute workflow button, right? Unless and until the workflow is active, how would the webhook node listen to the request, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So now when I click on this, I get another error that says I need to save the workflow, right? And that is something that I mentioned earlier. So let me go ahead and save the workflow. Save as, and let's give it silly webhook. And now I'll go ahead and click on execute workflow. And I'll again make the call request. We made the mistake once again, no problem. And yep, we got it working. So if you see over here, we got all the information, right? So this is how the webhook node works. But well, let's add again the Discord node over here and send a message to us to our Discord channel. So I'll go ahead and get the Discord node now. I'll be using the same webhook because we can use the same webhook again with the Discord. And the message, I will simply post in a message, hello silly words. And let's execute the workflow and let me make the request once again. And it got successfully executed. And you can see it says the workflow did execute it successfully. And yep, we were able to send the message. So you can see the message on the Discord channel of n8n as well. Now, something that is really important to remember when you're working with the webhook node is that the webhook node executes only for 120 seconds when it is in development phase and the workflow is not set to active. So whenever you are testing the webhook node, make sure that you send the request in this 120 seconds. And yeah, this is how the webhook node can be used. Now you can connect other nodes to the webhook node. For example, you can use the webhook node in your Slack workspace to make bots, or you can build a GitHub action that makes a request to the webhook node. Well, the another important and useful core node in n8n is the function node. And using the function node, we can write custom JavaScript code snippets to transform the data or generate some custom data. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the function node. Now, before moving on, should I connect the function node to the start node, or should the function node be a separate node? Anyone? Yes, so over here, since we are not looking for any kind of webhook requests, and the function node is a regular node. Let me show you that. So the function node is a regular node, and since we want it to execute when we start the workflow, we will connect it to the start node. And this is, okay, so let's go ahead and execute this function to see what kind of output we get. And yeah, you see that we get the output my variable one, which we already have set over here. Let's modify this code snippet over here and use our custom code snippet. So let me give you an explanation of what is happening in this code snippet. So we are creating a data object and transforming it to the ISO format. We are also getting today's day. Then we have an array of the days of the week. And then we are adding the information to our items array. The snippet gives us today's date and day. So you see, it gives us the day, that is Friday, and the date, along with the time, and this is all in the ISO format. So we were using the default JavaScript methods over here to get the date and the day as well. Now let's try another code sample, and this will generate some dummy data. So yeah, let me give you a brief of what is happening over here. So we have a for loop, right, which iterates from 0 to 10, and it keeps on, setting the ID value to I. That is, we will get ID 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 till 9. So let's see it in action. So you see the data that we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 till 9. So this is how you can use the function node to create your own data. But yeah, the function node, if you have observed, the function node always returns an array. The function node always returns an array. So make sure that the information you want to return is in an array. You can also use this node to transform data coming from other nodes, and we will use this in our workflow later. You now know about the HTTP request node and how to use it. You learned about the webhook node and how it can be used to trigger a workflow. You also saw that you can write custom JavaScript code snippets for data transformation using the function node. And next, we are going to build 2 automation workflows. But before jumping into that, I want to take a quick break over here, and I want to answer any questions that you all might have. So ask your questions in the chat, and I'll love to answer them. Can you once show the Discord one once again? Yep, definitely. I can show you that. Let me quickly open a new workflow. I'll show you the one that we created in this workshop itself. My bad. So this is how you can also open a workflow that you have saved. So we had this silly Discord bot, and this is the Discord bot, right? And yeah, you can see in this node, we are passing the webhook URL and then the text as well. And yeah, let me also, give you a brief about how you can pass on data from one node to another. So this was the custom message that I wrote, and then I selected this information from going to nodes and then the HTTP request, right? Let me execute it for you once again so that you get a more visual idea. So if you see over here, we have output data, which contains the information that we got from the HTTP request node. And then we are selecting all the information we want from over here. Awesome. Shivam is asking, what kind of hack would you like to see? There might be some Notion wish list anytime team might have. Like that's a good question. So we kind of have a few ideas for ourselves, and we are working on those, and we are creating prototypes for that. But I want to see what you come up with, right? I want to see what idea you have, right? So yeah, so show me what you have built, right? I want to see your creative idea for this. Okay, so I don't see any more questions coming in, or do we have that? What's the best hack till date you have seen? The best hack with n8n that I have seen is, that's a good question. So it's not related to the SillyHacks team, but I write a lot, right? And I kind of find it difficult at times to cross post it on different platforms. So one of my colleague has created this workflow where you can cross post it both on Medium and DevPost. So that is something that I really like, and something that I am going to use very soon. I'm just working on making it integrating it with my own server. Cool. So now that we don't have any more questions, or if you have still more questions, it's completely fine. Let them come in the chat, and I'll answer them. But yeah, let's move forward. So we'll make a workflow that is time spent in classes, right? And this is how our workflow looks like. And we are using 5 different nodes over here. So the first node you see is the cron node, and the cron node is a trigger node, and it executes the workflow at the time that we specify. So there might be various times that you might want to specify a particular action to take place, right? So you can use the cron node to do that. The next is the function node, which we will use to get the start date and the end date of the week. So this is what will be happening in this particular function node. And then we are using the Google Calendar node to get the information of all the classes we had in the week. And we are again using the function node to calculate this amount of time that we spent in our classes. And lastly, we have the Twilio node, which will send us an SMS with this information. So let's go ahead and build this. So I want you all to go to your n8n editor. And if you are not on the new editor, go ahead and click on the new button, and this will take you to a new workspace, right? Where you can create the workflow from scratch. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we want to execute that the workflow on every Friday, let's just say at 6 p.m. So to do that, we are going to use the cron node. So I'm going to add the cron node over here. And you can add the time whichever you want by clicking on the add cron time and select whenever you want to run this, right? Now, since we want to run this every week on Friday at 6 p.m., I'm going to select every week. I'm going to select the day as well. And then I am going to set the time over here. What does 6 is when we add it to 12? Well, I already know that. I am good with maths, okay? Yeah, never mind. So yeah, one important thing to note over here is, if you are using this in production, make sure that the time zone that you are setting while deploying it is according to your time zone, right? The default time zone is the New York time zone. But if you are based in India, so make sure that while you are deploying this, you set the server time zone to your time zone so that it executes at the particular time that you want. So yeah, now we have the cron node in place. The next thing we want to do is get the starting date and the ending date of the week. And for that, we are going to use the function node. Now I already have the function ready with me. You can also find the function on the GitHub repo. If you scroll down to the time spent in online classes section over here, I'm basically using this particular function. So I'm just going to copy this and paste this over here, right? And yeah, while you are following me, let me explain you what this function is doing. So this function is basically giving us the current date, right? And then it is also calculating the first date and the last date for the week. And then we are setting it to a new variable, that is first day and last day. And then we are, setting the hours for that and adding it to a new variable that's called beginning week. And we are doing the same for the end date as well. And then we are adding it to our items array from where we can get that information. So now when I execute the node, you see that we have the from and to, right? This is from where the weekend starts, the week starts, and this is when the week ends. Now, yeah, you might say the week ends on Saturday or Sunday, but our classes, we are assuming that our classes, are just till Friday. So we are setting it till Friday itself. Now, the next thing we want to do is get the information from our Google Calendar for our online classes. So for that, we are going to use the Google Calendar node. Now, I already have set up the credentials for the Google Calendar node, but let me give you a quick brief of how you can do this. So the first thing you want to do is, you want to make sure that you have the API enabled for Google Cloud, the API enabled for Google Calendar, and you can do that by going to Google Cloud, right? Go ahead and enable that API. The next thing you want to do is create OAuth 2 credentials for Google Cloud. So you can do that again on the Google Cloud Console. Once again, I have shared that information in the GitHub repo, but you can also, click on this button over here, and it will take you to the documentation where you can get, where you can learn how to do this. So now, since I already have it in place, I'm going to use my already credentials that I've already set. Now we want to get the information and we don't want to create new events. So I'm going to select get all. And yeah, you might be using different calendars within Google itself. So I have a calendar that says Silly Classes, and I'm going to select that as well. And one more thing that we want to do is set this. Okay, let me explain you this way. So when I click on execute node, this will grab all the information that was in the Silly Classes calendar, right? It won't get the information only for a particular week. So what we want to do is we want to get the information for the particular week. And to do that, we are going to use the parameters set min and set max. So first, let's just set max. And again, since we are using it, since we are getting this information from the function node that we created previously, I'm going to use that over here. So since this is the max time interval that we want, I'm selecting 2 over here. And also, now we also want the calendar to know that we want to start this from the start of the week. So I'm again getting that information from the function node. Now, another important parameter that you want to set is single events. Okay, we don't want this parameter. And I'll set this to true. So what this does is this basically gets all the events that were in this time period. And yeah, this also, if an event is, if your classes are, if you have recurring classes, right? If you have a classes that is repeating each day, this will get the classes for each and every day. So let's execute this. And you see that I have now the information of all my classes. Well, something that I also want to show you is how you can rename these nodes so that, whenever you are sharing it with your friends, or if you have a complex workflow, it makes it easier for you to, get this information, to just recognize from where you are getting what information. So to rename a node, you can simply click on select the name over here and paste the name, or just type the name, and it's all set. Right. So this is how you can rename those nodes. So I'm going to rename the calendar node as well, just so that we know what is happening over here. Now that we have the classes, the information for our classes, what we want to do next is calculate the amount of time that we are spending in those classes. So as mentioned earlier, we are going to use the function node, which will calculate this for us. I will once again copy and paste the function that I already have. And don't worry, I'll be explaining you what is this function doing over here. So over here, if you see, we are creating a new array, and we also have a variable that will store the total time. We have a for loop, which is iterating over all the information that we are getting from the calendar. And it is also, it is also adding it to, it is also basically summing the amount of duration that we spent. And then we are pushing this information to the new items array that we created earlier, and we are converting it into the number of hours, right? So by default, JavaScript gives you the information in milliseconds. So we are doing this in hours, converting it into hours. So now that I execute the node, I'll get the amount of time that I spent in my classes. Wow, I spent 5 hours in my online classes. That is okay, I guess. I'm also again, renaming this. So it makes it easy for me to refer it later on. Well, the last step is to add the Twilio node. And we are going to use the Twilio node, which will basically send an SMS to us. So let's go ahead and add that. Now, once again, I already have my credentials for Twilio node set, but you can get more information on how to do that from the documentation, or you can also refer the GitHub repo. So I'll be using the Twilio credentials that I have, and we want to send an SMS. So these parameters look right over here, and the from number over here, you want to put the number that you get from Twilio. So if you don't have the number, if you don't already have the number, go ahead and get the number from Twilio itself. You can get a trial number for free, so use that. And then in the to number, you want to enter the number where you want to send the SMS, right? So I am not gonna enter my personal number on this workshop, but yeah, I already ran this in just before the workshop, and I can show you the output that I got. This is the output that I got. I'm not sure if you can all see it, but yeah, this is what I got when I run this node. But yeah, let's also look into how we can add the message. So once again, since we are getting this information, the number of hours from our previous node, we are going to use the edit expression editor. And just a small message before we get the information, just to let us know what is happening over here. So time spent in classes this week, and then let's get that from total class duration. And this is where renaming nodes make it easy. So if we didn't rename the nodes earlier, what would have happened? We would have got function and function one, and in a very complex workflow, we might get confused, like from where you are getting the information, right? So I'm selecting this, and also to make it easy for your users, edit what unit it is and a little emoji. And when I click on execute node, I will get a message, but yeah, I haven't entered the number over here. Go ahead and enter your number and you will definitely get a message. So I want you all to go ahead and save this workflow. It will also be taking, I'll be also be taking a short break over here, and I answer any questions you might have for the workflow. So I see a lot of activity in the chat. That's really good. So let me scroll up a bit. So Yuvraj is asking live streaming at same time on multiple platforms. How's this idea? This is a really great idea, but for live streaming, you basically need a server that streams those things, right? So that is something which is not possible right now with n8n. You cannot basically stream on different platforms using n8n, but what you can do is we have a YouTube node, right? So you can use the YouTube node and make a workflow that would send a tweet or an SMS or an email to the viewers, like, hey, this particular channel is going live, right? So that would be an interesting workflow. Shyam is asking, are we going to talk about credentials we share here and how those will be saved? Okay, I think, okay, so Tanay has already answered that. Thank you, Tanay, for that. Shivam, I hope you got the answer for that. And I see you got another question. So what is the retention period? Limits on function execution. Could not find it on the official docs. Rate limit. Okay. Okay. I'm also reading the next message that you have sent. Temp photo URL hack idea. Okay. What it does. So you can add Telegram message and it will send you link back, which will expire after X time. You can add Telegram message and it will send you the link back, which will expire after X time. Okay, I am not exactly sure what do you mean by this, but let me answer your previous question. So what is the retention period limit? Retention period, limits on function execution. Okay, so once you set the workflow to active, right? But yeah, before setting it to active, you need to save the workflow. And once you set it to active, it can run unless and until you don't manually stop the workflow, right? Unless and until you don't inactivate the workflow. And yeah, so it does not have a particular retention period. It is up to you how long do you want this to run. So the next question, limits on function execution. What kind of limits exactly are you asking for? So you can go to the docs, right? It has all the examples, all the kind of examples that you can use for the function node. Basically, the function node uses Java. You can use the JavaScript for. You can use JavaScript to write the functions in the function node, right? So you can use any kind of JavaScript methods. But again, let me just remind you, this is vanilla JavaScript, right? So make sure that the JavaScript that you are using is vanilla JavaScript. Priyanshu is asking, can we use external modules in the function node? No, so you cannot use external modules in the function node. And if I'm not, I think I'm right over here, but Tanay can give you a better answer for this. As far as I know, you cannot use external modules because, as I mentioned earlier, you can. Okay, so external modules. Here's how to do this. Awesome. So yeah, I guess you can use external modules as well. That's pretty good. So doesn't it stop spamming? How does n8n monitor excessive usage? Well, you are running it locally on your machine, right? Or you might be running it on your own server, right? So n8n is not. So yeah, we don't monitor this usage since it is locally on your machine or on the server, right? And yeah, while you are running on your server, you basically don't use the tunnel flag. Right, you just simply use the n8n start command since it is on your server and the workflows will be active. It gets the webhook URL set for the workflow. Yuvraj has a really good question. What does the one in the green box about each node represents? Well, this gives us a visual identification that our workflow has executed once and it has and it was successful in giving us the output, right? And if you see over here in the Twilio node, since we didn't execute it and we also didn't set all the parameters, it gives us the error message, the error badge over there. But if I put in this information, that the error message goes, because now I've given it all the required information. But if I try to execute this node, it will give me an error. So let me show you how it looks like. So you see now we got an error message. And if you see, this basically helps us to understand if the node ran successfully or not. Awesome. So let's move ahead to the next workflow. So earlier we learned how we can use n8n to build automations for our personal use. Now we will learn how to use n8n to build automations that can be used in the industry. Now, it is really important in factories to monitor the health of the machine. If anything goes wrong with the machine, huge loss is incurred. So with this workflow, we will monitor the health of the machine. We will also notify the plant manager if the temperature goes about 50 degrees Celsius. So for this use case, we will be building two workflows. The first workflow that you see over here will help us gather the information from our sensors and add them to the active MQ queue. And for that, we will be using the AMQP node. So AMQP is basically an open standard application layer protocol. So to simplify this, it's basically application layer protocol, which helps us to send messages between different middlewares. So yeah, let me quickly go ahead and start the active MQ. So active MQ start. I already have active MQ installed. Once again, if you want to know how to install active MQ, I've said it, how to do that on the repo. You can also find it on our documentation. So when I click on the execute workflow button, this will basically send some information to the queue, right? Now in this workflow, since we are not in a real factory and since we are not having some real sensors, we are generating the data. So we are generating some random data. And let me show you the other workflow that we will be building for this. Okay. So this is another workflow that we will be building. So what this workflow does is it basically now listens for the information from the active MQ queue, right? Whenever a new data is added to the queue, the active MQ trigger node over here listens to that and it passes on the information to the function node and the if node at the same time. Now, let me talk about this particular section over here. So if I talk about this section over here, the first thing we are doing is we are converting the temperature from degree Celsius to degree Fahrenheit. Once we do that, we are setting some variables, which we are then passing on to the CreateDB node. So CreateDB is a time series database that we are using for this workflow. You can use any other workflow that you want. So yeah, and we are then basically storing that information on the machine data. The next thing we are doing over here, if you see, is we are basically using the if node to check whether or not the temperature is greater than 50 degrees Celsius on, right? If it is not greater than 50 degrees Celsius, we have a node that is a no operation do nothing node, which basically does nothing, right? It just stops over here and does not move the data forward. But if the temperature is more than 50 degrees Celsius, we want to inform the plant manager, right? And we do that using PagerDuty. So PagerDuty is a service that is highly used in the industry to notify the plant managers or the responsible person about any incident, and it really helps to take care of all the incidents and manage the incidents. So we are using the PagerDuty node over here to create an incident. We are then passing on that information to a set node where we are basically setting the variables, and then for further analysis, we are storing it again into a CreateDB, right? So we are storing this into CreateDB so that we get enough information so that we can use this to analyze the data further. Give me a minute. I am running low on the battery, and now it's pretty good. Awesome. So yeah, let's go ahead and create this workflow. Okay, let me delete this nodes over here. But yeah, I want you all to save this workflow first and then go and create a new workflow. Right? So the first thing we want is the set interval node. Now the set interval node is a trigger node. Okay. It's just the interval node. So it's a trigger node and we want to run it every second. Now, again, let's just take an example. If we are actually implementing it in a live factory. Now we want to get the data from the sensors continuously. And so we want this workflow to run continuously every second, right? So we are setting it to every second. The next thing we want to do, let me zoom in for you so that you can have a more better visual. Well, the next thing you want to do is set some information. For that, I'm using the set node. Now there are various things that we want to do. The first thing is we want to pass on the machine ID. So let's do that. So in the name property, okay, let us change the format over here. Dot name, right? So the name we want to pass on, basically this is the variable name. So we want it to be the machine underscore ID dot name. And the value we want to pass on is, let's just say our machine is called n8n CR8, right? This is the information that we want. The next thing is we want the temperature. So this temperature will be in Celsius. So again, I'm setting the property name in temperature Celsius. And then, as I mentioned earlier, since we are not working with sensors over here, we will be generating this information randomly. So yeah, let's just format this. So yeah, this is basically going to randomly give us a number between 0 to 100. But let us not take it that way. Let us consider it as some temperature that we are getting for our machine. We also want to set the machine, get the machine uptime. So this machine uptime is basically, giving us the information for how long the machine was running. And this will be, again, we'll be randomly generating this. Let's format this. So now that we have the machine uptime as well, let us, the another important thing, when you are working with such use cases is you also want to get the timestamp, right? You want to make sure when a particular error occurred or when you got this particular data, right? So we are gonna get the timestamp as well. And once again, you can use the JavaScript function over here, the JavaScript date.now function. So this gives us the current timestamp. So we have all the information that we needed for our machine. So this is the kind of information that you might get from your sensors. There might be other information as well, but for this workflow, we only need this information. So when I click on execute node, you will see that we got the information. And another interesting thing is, if you see over here, we used the dot notation for dot name and dot uptime, and it got added as a JSON format. So yeah, now we have the information that we want to pass to the ActiveMQ queue. Now let's use the AMQP node over here to add it to the queue. Now I already have set my credentials. Let me show you how this looks. So since my ActiveMQ is running locally on my machine, the host name is localhost. And the ActiveMQ usually runs on 5672 port number that is set over here. And these are the default username and the password, right? The default password is also admin, so you can use that unless and until you change it to something else. So yeah, so the queue or topic, since so this is the queue or this is the value that you will be getting it from your ActiveMQ. So whenever you create a queue, right, you will get an option to add, to give it a name. So I already went ahead and added the queue for this workshop, and I have named it Berlin Factory 01. So when I click on execute node, it will add the data to my ActiveMQ queue. So this is how we are generating some random data. So yeah, I'll give you a few minutes so that you all can catch up with me. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the chat. Also, one thing that you want to do is save this workflow. Right, I already have it saved. So you can go ahead and save this workflow. Right, and after you save this, make sure you click on active so that this workflow runs on every second and new data is added to our ActiveMQ queue. So let me open the workflow that I already have saved, and I'll active this workflow. So now at every second, the new information will be added to our queue. Awesome. Do we have any questions? Shivam has shared the blog posting. Thank you, Shivam, for doing that. I really appreciate it. Also, n8n allows importing workflows, so you can use the copy share. Yeah, you can. So let me give you a quick look of that. So a lot of community folks have, been using n8n and they have created some workflows. So you can, simply use these workflows in your automation. So let us say we want to upload a video, create a video, and add a video to a playlist. So I already have created a workflow for that. So you can, simply copy this workflow, and on the n8n editor, let's just quickly delete this, delete the execution, paste it. So if you see over here, we have the workflow ready. Now all you have to do is set up the credentials for the nodes, and you're good to go. So yeah, this is how you can use the the existing workflows that the community have built. Also, it would be really cool if you share your workflow with us, same as how the folks shared their workflow, and I would love to see what you all build. So since we don't have any more questions, let's go ahead and build the second workflow for this example, for this particular use case. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this workflow will execute whenever the ActiveMQ trigger node, the AMQP trigger node gets the information from the queue. So let us add this node over here. Now we are using the same credentials that we had used in our previous workflow, that workflow where we were generating the data. So this is how you can also reuse these credentials, and this is how it is really helpful when you have the credentials saved. Now, since we had a queue that was called Berlin Factory 01, we want to listen to that queue as well. So I'm entering that over here. I'm going to click on execute node. And you see now we got all the information that is sent to the queue. Now the first part, now let's break it down into two parts. The first part that I will be showing you is adding this information to our crate DB, right? All the machine information that we got to our database, that's crate DB. And we will be also converting the degree Celsius, the temperature that is in degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. So we'll first convert the temperature into Fahrenheit. So we're gonna use the function node. And I already have the code snippet for that. So we are getting the degree Celsius from the previous node, right? And we are using the formula for converting it into Fahrenheit. And then we are adding Fahrenheit to our items array, and then we are returning the items. So let us execute this and see what information we get. So now you see, now we have the temperature in Fahrenheit as well. Well, the next thing we want to do is use the set node to set the variables and the information that we want to move forward to our crate DB. The information that we want to pass on is the machine name, the machine uptime, the temperature in both Celsius and Fahrenheit, and the timestamp. Now I am getting this information from our AMQB trigger node. So I'm going to select that, or you can get this information from the the function node as well, since the function node is returning that information too. So here is the name. Now the other thing we want is the uptime. So since that would be a number, let's select number. And we'll again get this from the function node, but let me show you that you can also get it from the trigger node as well. So if you see over here, we have uptime as well. But since we are getting the other information from function node, just to keep it simple, we'll get this information from the function node as well. And then we want to pass on the temperature in both Celsius and Fahrenheit. So let me just copy paste this. Yeah, if you are following me and if you are, if I'm going a bit too fast, just let me know. I can reduce my pace so that you can follow me easily. Since we don't want the 0, let's remove that. Now there are two more information that we want to pass. The first is the temperature in Fahrenheit and the timestamp. So that is what now I'm going to do. Now, one of the reasons that we are saving this information in our database is to, if we want to do further analysis of our data, right? So whenever you are working in the industry, you really need to, get an idea of what kind of things are happening with your machines, and this also helps you with predicting the future errors that might occur in the machines. Okay. And this is the last thing that we want to send to our machine. Sorry, to our database. So now we have all the information that we want to pass on. So let us go and click on execute node. And pretty good. So we have everything we want. Now what I want to do next is I want to start create DB, and I'll show you how to do that. So I hope you all have installed create DB already, but if you haven't, you need to install Docker, and you can then create DB on Docker using this command. Once again, you can find all this information on the GitHub repo or as well as on the blog post. So this will take up a while to start the create DB instance. And let us go ahead and try to access this. So by default, CreateDB, you can access CreateDB at localhost port 4200. So yeah, CreateDB is up for us. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a table. So in the console, we are going to create a table. I already have those functions with me. The first table we want is the machine data, where we are storing all the machine information. So this is the command that you want to use. And when I click on that, it says the table was created. That's pretty good. So now let's go ahead and add the CreateDB node. Now for CreateDB as well, you have to set your credentials. I already have mine in place, right? Now if you are using it locally on my machine, just as the way I am, this is how your credentials will look like. The host will be localhost. The database is basically doc, and the user will be create, right? Once you do that, just go ahead and click on save, and you are up for this. Well, we created a table called machine data. So I am gonna enter the name over here, and in the columns, I will be passing on all the information that I want to pass. So I am passing on all the information, that is the temperature in Fahrenheit, the temperature in Celsius, the machine name, the machine uptime, and the timestamp. And let's go ahead and execute this. Awesome. So when we executed this, we might now get this information. Sorry, we might now get this information on in our database. So let's select machine data. Let's query the table. Let's click on execute query, and you see that we have now the information. So now we have completed the first part, and I'm going to just, make it a bit more cleaner. Now we are going to move on to the second part of the work of this workflow, which will basically send the notifications to the product, the plant manager, right? And we will be also storing that information. But to do that, we also want to make sure that it only sends out the notification when the temperature of our machine raises to 50 degrees Celsius. So we are using the if node for this. Now the first thing I would do is connect the if node with the trigger node over here. Now we want to add a condition, and since we will be working with numbers, I'm selecting number over here. The value 1, so this can be the value that is coming from our trigger, the AMQP trigger node. So we want the temperature. So let's get that. So now we have the temperature, and we want to check if it is larger than or equal to 50 degrees Celsius. And let's add 50 over here. And this is good. So if I execute this node, you will see that no text data found because because the temperature over here is less than 31, is 31, right? Which is less than 50. Let us select false, and if you see, we get the output data. But we want to execute, but we want to further process this whenever the temperature is greater than 50 degree. And we want to create an alert using the PagerDuty node. So that is what we are doing over here. Now, again, I have set the credentials. I have already set the credentials for PagerDuty, but I have also shared the information on how you can do that using also how you can do that on the GitHub repo. Since we want to create an incident, all this information looks good to me. The title will be incident with, and let's do this. Let's also send out the machine name that we get from the ActiveMQ, because if you are in a factory, right, you might have different machines and you don't want to send this information for only one particular machine. So we can get that from the AMQP trigger node. And let us select the service ID from here. And over here, you can put in the email where the notification message would go. So I'm putting my email. And when I click on execute node, well, since the temperature is currently less than 50 degrees Celsius, we won't see anything over here. Let us execute this workflow once again. Let us see what temperature we have. So the temperature now we got was 0 degree, it's completely fine. Let's execute this once again. Awesome. So you see, since the temperature is now 80 degree, which is greater than 50, the information is passed on to the PagerDuty node, right? And this is the information that we get from the PagerDuty. The next thing we want to do is pass on this information to our database, but we don't want to pass on all this information, right? So we are again going to use a set node. And the information that we want to pass over here would be the incident ID, the HTML URL, the incident timestamp, the incident data. Well, let us send only this information. So all this will be string over here. And we are getting this information from a PagerDuty node. The other information that we want to pass on is the HTML URL. So let's get that as well. So you see how it is easy, to get the information from the previous node just through clicks. But if you want, you can also, use this syntax over here to get the information. And the last thing we want is to get the timestamp, because we want to know at which particular time the incident occurred. Now we'll get this information. Let's see if we can get this information from PagerDuty as well. So you can see that we don't have that information over here, right? or we do? Well, you see that we have this created at, which is the timestamp that we want. This gives us at what particular time this incident was created. And we'll select keep only set. So this will only keep all the, share all the information that we have set over here. And you see, we have now all the information that we needed. The next thing you want to do is store this in a CreateDB. So I'm adding the CreateDB node over here, selecting my credentials that I already have. And for this, we want to store it in a different database. So I'm entering the name of that database. And the information that we want to pass is the incident ID, HTML URL, and the incident timestamp. But before doing this, we still haven't created our database. So that is what I'm going to do now. So again, I'll go back to the console. So we are already on the console. And yeah, we are going to use the create table command over here. And we get the message that the table was successfully created. So yeah, let us now execute this node. So when I execute this node, it gives me this output. Let us check it on CreateDB. And over here, we want to check the incident data. We select that. Let's just query the table. So another amazing thing with CreateDB is, when you don't have to every time write down the syntax. So when I click on, query the data, already it gives me this code, right? So if you want to, change anything, you can just modify this code over here and you can basically execute the query. So now you see it gives us the information. So this is how you can build this workflow. The another important thing that I want to show you is the the no operation do nothing node. So as I mentioned earlier, this node does nothing. So if you see, we don't have any parameters over here, right? But we are adding it just to, for a better visual view so that we know that we don't want to do anything when the temperature is less than 50 degrees Celsius. So let us execute this once again. And you see the workflow got executed successfully. So this is how you can create workflows in n8n, and this is how n8n can be used in the industry. This is one of the examples of how you can do that. So I already have this. If I set this to active, save and active, and if I go to my CreateDB and check the table, you can see the total records now for machine data is 2. Right? Let's check what is for the incident data. Okay, so for the incident data it was 2. For machine data it is now 4. So since I've set both the workflows active, now every second it is generating a new information and it is adding it to the queue. And then the active, the AMQ trigger node is reading the information from the active MQ queue and then executing the workflow. So let me just, okay, so this is what I was worried about. So my laptop is hanged for now, maybe because it's, both the workflows are active and all the processes are running behind the scenes. So let me just, take close all these workflows, as well as let me go ahead and close the instance as well. Okay, no problem. I think I should close this workflow as well. While this is happening, I'm open to any questions that you might have. So feel free to ask me any questions and I'd love to answer them. And yeah, don't forget we have a special n8n category where you can win some amazing prizes, and we would love to see what you build with n8n. So Tanay is asking, can we use databases other than CreateDB here? Well, yes, you can use any database that you want with n8n. So we have nodes for Postgres, we have nodes for MongoDB, we have a node for MariaDB. So we have nodes for this. We also have a node for MySQL. So if you're using MySQL, you can use that as well. But we are using CreateDB over here since it is a time series database and it is more relevant to this particular workflow. But you are free to use any database that you want. Well, so let's have a quick conclusion. So you learn what is automation. You learn the benefits of automation. You also explored what is n8n. You saw the components of n8n. Also, you learn how to build workflows with n8n, and you build two workflows with n8n with two different use cases. The first workflow was calculating the amount of time that we spent in our online classes and sending us an SMS. Well, you can expand this workflow and you can configure it to send you emails. The next workflow we saw taught us how n8n can be used in the industry. So yeah, that's it for the conclusion. So yeah, what's next? Well, there are a lot of possibilities. There are infinite possibilities, if I can say that, because we have more than 180 plus nodes that you can use. Right? One of the examples that I talked about earlier is you can create a workflow that sends out a tweet whenever a new YouTube video is added to your channel. You can or whenever you go live on YouTube. That would be a really interesting workflow. Another workflow, another crazy workflow or silly workflow that I can think of is you can have a workflow where whenever your teammate creates a new issue on GitHub or creates a new pull request or even a GitHub commit, right? The workflow executes and you send out some random GIFs on Twitter. That would be really interesting. So these are some ideas that I have for you all, but I am excited to see what you come up with. Well, you can reach out to us at n8n_io on Twitter. If you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to us on community.n8n.io. A lot of our community is there, and we love to see your questions. If you have any feature requests that you want, you can also let us know what node you want or what kind of feature you want, and we would definitely try to get that for you. And you can reach out to me on Twitter with my handle Harshil1712. So that's it for the workshop. If you have any questions, I would love to address them. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions.